We are now going to do number 14. All right, it says if f of x is equal to the square root of x squared minus 4 and g of x is equal to 3x minus 2, then the derivative of f of g of x at x equals 3 is what? Okay, so x squared minus 4. I try not to look at these problems ahead of time. I just like to kind of do them with y'all, think about it as I go. So this question, I'm asked to find, first of all, the derivative of f of g of x. All right, so we can think about this a couple different ways. I could just go ahead and find f of g of x, use algebra, and then take the derivative. Or I could use the chain rule as it is now. I think it may be a little easier just to do some algebra first, is what I think is better to do here. So let's find f of g of x, and maybe I'm wrong. It may be better the other way. Like I said, I haven't looked at the problem yet. But I'm going to put 3x minus 2 in here and just work that out. Okay, so this is f of g of x, if you remember your algebra. 3x minus 2 just went in for x. Okay, so let's work this out. Okay, if I square this out, 3x minus 2, 3x minus 2 minus 4. Okay, that's going to be 9x squared minus 6x plus 4 minus 4. And what I'm doing, I'm just distributing or using what people call the FOIL method. Sometimes is what folks like to think of with binomial times binomial. Okay, so square root of 9x squared minus 12x. So that's f of g of x. Now I've got to use a chain rule anyway here. So I find the derivative of that. It's the derivative of the inside. Okay, so it's going to be 18x minus 12 times the derivative of something to the 1/2 power. The derivative of something to the 1/2 power is 1/2 times x to the negative 1/2 power. All right, that is over to the side. If I'm taking the derivative of this, regardless of what's on the inside, square root, of course, is just x to 1/2 power. The derivative of this, 1/2 times 1 is 1/2. 1/2 minus 1 is negative 1/2, which in turn puts it on the bottom like that. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say put 9x squared minus 12x. Remember, we've already dealt with the inside. So there's, if you don't look at the 18x minus 12, we have exactly this, except 9x squared minus 12x is in there. There's your 1 over 2 times the square root, and then the chain rule part. Okay, so now we just want to put a 3 in there, I think is what it said. Yeah, add x equals 3. All right, so let's do that. So if I put a 3 in the top, see if we have room here. I'm going to evaluate it at 3. That's not the right notation. We'll just say x equals 3. So I put a 3 up here. 18 times 3 is 54. 54 minus 12 is 42. And then 2 times the square root of, all right, 3 squared is 9. 9 times 9 is 81. 12 times 3 is 36. 81 minus 36 is 45. Okay, so I have 42 over 2 root 45. I'll bring it up here. That's equivalent to 21 over root 45. Remember, they don't want a calculator here. So let's look at our answer choices. Okay, so none of those are right yet because they rationalize the denominator. All right, so root 45, if you remember your algebra, that's 3 root 5. All right, square root of 9 times square root of 5 is root 45. 21 divided by 3 is 7. They had they didn't actually rationalize it down there. The square root is still down there. They just reduced it. So it was 7 over root 5. So that one took a minute. But we got it, 7 over root 5. Okay. Let's look at 15. All right, we'll minimize this just a little bit. Get a picture here. Okay. Oh, this is a fun problem. So it says the graph is of a differentiable function is shown above. If h of x is equal to the given expression, which of the following is true? So you need the fundamental theorem of calculus here. Let me get my eraser. Okay, erase 14 from my board. So we need to do a little calculus. We need to be reminded of something here, because you'll notice it asks for the first and second derivative and wants you to compare the two. Okay, so let's come down here. Look at the board for a minute. All right, so we want to know what is h prime of x. All right. Well, the derivative of an integral essentially cancels out from the fundamental theorem of calculus. The first part, you have these two different variables, which confuses folks, but essentially the derivative of this would cancel off that denominator. This is a little function that accumulates area as it goes. So the derivative would be, if you remember your fundamental theorem of calculus, f of x right here. And there's some explanation behind that, which for the sake of this video, I won't get into. But if you know your fundamental theorem of calculus, you know h prime of x is equal to f of x, which means your second derivative is equal to f prime of x. All right, so you take the derivative of a derivative, that's f prime of x. So let's look back at the problem. All right, it wants to know at 6. Okay, so let's consider first h of 6. Well, I'm going to use my little arrow here. If 6 takes x's spot right here, you're looking for the accumulated area between 0 and 6, which is clearly a negative value. Okay, this is some negative number because that's all below the x-axis. All the accumulated area between this curve and the x-axis is going to be negative right here. So I'm going to go to my board here. I know that h of 6 is definitely negative. Okay, so what is h prime of 6? Well, that would be equivalent, according to this, that would be equivalent to f of 6. Well, f of 6, as you can see, this is f, I assume, the graph. The graph of f, it says it right there. So f of 6, remember, that's just wanting to know what is the y coordinate when x is 6. It was 0, right there. So going back to my camera, f of 6, which is h prime of 6, is 0. Okay. What about h double prime of 6? Well, that would be equivalent to f prime of 6, according to this. All right. So the first derivative when x is 6, going back one more time, clearly we have a positive slope here. It's an increase in function, so this can be a positive number. Okay, remember derivative from a graph would be the sign of the slope. So this is positive. So putting these in order, it's going to be, this is the smallest because it's negative. This will be in the middle because it's 0.